So, okay, this is the part 2 of our GIT series. And let's start with the four major digestive functions of the GIT. One by one, we will discuss the associated um, definitions and functions within that major function of your GIT. So let's start with your motility. So when we say motility, it's the movement of food through the GI tract. So we have two rhythmic wave-like contraction, and these are your peristalsis and segmentation. When we say peristalsis, it is commonly um, in your small intestine, and in segmentation naman, it's large intestine. So, what's the difference between these two movement, okay, or contraction? When we say peristalsis, the contraction that move, take note, that move food through the GI tract. And when we say segmentation, it's the contraction that mix the food with your GI secretion. So, involved here is your ingestion, mastication, and deglution. So, when we say ingestion, it's the taking of food to the mouth. Mastication is all about the chewing and the mixing of your food with your saliva in your mouth. In mastication, it's chewing. Deglutition is your swallowing of your food. Okay? So, in your motility, we have types of movement. So, nasabi natin kanina, peristalsis and segmentation. But, okay, in your peristalsis, we have propulsive movement. In your segmentation, it's your mixing movement. Okay, let's discuss further about the movements. When we say propulsive movement, okay, peristalsis is an inherently property of your GIT smooth muscle. So, the cause of food to move forward along the tract at appropriate rate to accommodate digestion and absorption. This is usually, take note, usually stimulus of intestinal peristalsis is your distension of the gut. Okay, so if there is distension in the gut due to accumulation of that food, there will be a stretching in your gut wall. So look at this. If there is a accumulation of food, okay, I have the bolus here, then the smooth muscle of your GIT will have the capacity or the ability to stretch the gut wall. That's why to accommodate, okay, that it's, the stretching will accommodate, okay, that bolus, okay, and the stimulation of that stretching is your enteric nervous system. The contraction of the gut wall is 2 to 3 cm, okay, behind contractile ring and relaxation in front of the bolus. So, behind the contractile ring, okay, and relaxation in front of that bolus. So, behind this bolus, we have contraction, and in front of this bolus, we have relaxation. Okay. Mixing movements. Okay, it's the mixing of food with your GI content. So, we have different parts of your alimentary tract. In some areas, peristaltic contraction cause most mixing, but other areas, local intermittent constrictive contractions occur every few cms the gut wall. Okay, your propulsion and mixing of food in the GIT. First, we have your ingestion of food. It's that taking in of food into the mouth. So, when we say hunger, it's the amount of food ingested, okay, determined by your hunger. Okay. When we say The type of food that person preferentially seeks is determined by your appetite. So, gaano kadami ang kinakain mo, it's determined by your hunger. Pero kung ano ang gusto mo, example, you prefer today a bacon. Okay? So, ang nagde-determine nun, it's your appetite. Okay? So we have two areas of in your hypothalamus that are important in your control of your appetite. We have the satiety area or the center and the hunger center. When we say satiety area, it's inhibitory, which is located in your ventromedial nucleus, okay, your VMN, and it stimulates your center, elicits your sensation of your satiety. And the lesion of that center can cause continuous food intake or what we call your hyperphagia. So, if there's a lesion, okay, in that area, parang walang kinain si patient po. Hindi na sasatisfy yung satiety niya. Okay? So, the sensation of satiety. So, kakain siya ng kakain. Okay? So, pero kapag hunger center naman, this is mostly in stimulatory, is located at your lateral hypothalamic area. It's in the middle portion of your midbrain. So, stimulation of your lateral hypothalamic area elicit a voracious appetite, and lesion can cause complete and lasting cessation of take or your aphagia. Okay? So, feeling niya naman busog na busog pa rin siya. Okay? So, walang kain. Kaya hindi siya, yung hunger center niya, hindi na-stimulate. Okay? So, that's your satiety center and your hunger center. A long-term factor that suppresses appetite is your leptin. Take note of this word. Long-term factor that suppresses appetite is your leptin. Okay? Your leptin degrade your adipocytes and convert, okay, to glucose. This is a hormone secreted, okay, by your adipocytes that binds with your hypothalamic receptor, mostly in high-grade paper. Okay? So, that's your leptin. Next, we have your mastication or chewing. So, increase in surface area of food particles for digestive enzymes. The rate of digestion is absolutely dependent to the total surface area exposed to your digestive secretion. So, the more, okay, chewing or mastication you'll do, okay, the more na matutulungan, okay, ma-digest, okay, yung inyong food. That's why, sinasabi nila minsan, when eating, wag mong bilisan. You have to chew the food. Okay? Because that time, okay, in your mastication, you will have digestive enzyme to digest. Okay? Dun pa lang sa pag-chew mo, meron ka ng digestive enzyme that will help in digestion. Okay? So, prevents excoriation of your GIT and increase the ease with each food is emptied. After adequate mastication and mixing with your salivary juice, okay, your salivary juice comes from your parotid, okay, parotid gland, and kapag naman sinabi nating duct, it's your Stensen's duct, okay. The food content is swallowed through the esophagus. Next one. We have your esophagus and its motility. So your esophagus is a tubular conduit about 20 cm long for food transport from the mouth to stomach. The structural and regulatory aspect. Upper third of the esophagus is circular and longitudinal muscle layers are skeletal. Take note, upper third of the esophagus is skeletal muscle. So, innervation via your somatic nerve. Middle third, coexistence of skeletal and smooth muscle. Primary innervation of your vagus nerve. Take note, upper third, skeletal, somatic nerve. Middle third, coexistence of skeletal and smooth muscle. Primary innervation is your vagus nerve. And nerve input from your neurons of your myenteric plexus. Now, we have your lower third, your smooth muscle, your enteric nerve system, and the vagal input of your enteric nervous system. Okay? So, ang lower third, smooth muscle. Okay. Next. Peristalsis, produced by your series of localized reflexes, is a response in response to your distension of the wall by a bolus. So, wave-like muscular contraction, your smooth muscle contracted, sabi na natin kanina, behind and relaxed front, followed by a longitudinal contraction, shortening of your smooth muscle about the rate of 2 to 4 cm per second. After food passes into your stomach, your lower esophageal sphincter constricts. Okay? Now, let's go to your swallowing or your deglutition. Okay? So, this is a reflex response triggered by your afferent impulse in the trigeminal, glossopharyngeal, and vagus nerve. Take note of the three cranial nerves triggered, okay, kapag nagsuswallow. Okay. These impulses are integrated in your medulla, specifically nucleus of tractus solitarius and nucleus ambiguus. The efferent fibers pass to the pharyngeal musculature, tongue, and upper esophagus via your trigeminal, facial, and hypoglossal nerve. Okay. It is initiated by your voluntary contractions of collecting the oral contents on the tongue and propelling them backward into your pharynx. This causes then a wave involuntary contraction in pharyngeal muscles that pushes the material in your esophagus. So, your food in the mouth going to your somatosensory receptors located to your pharynx, your afferent will be triggered, your trigeminal, glossopharyngeal nerve, and vagus nerve, then the swallowing center in your medulla. Okay? The efferent, which are, okay, take note na naman, trigeminal, facial, and hypoglossal nerve. Then, it will go down with your striated muscle, your tongue, pharynx, upper third of that esophagus. So, ito siya. So, your afferent, your vagus, glossopharyngeal nerve, trigeminal nerve. Okay. Then, it will go on to your medulla, swallowing center, your medulla, and then triggered by your trigeminal, facial, and hypoglossal nerves. Then, it will go to your tongue, esophagus, and pharynx, and upper third of the esophagus. Okay. Swallowing or deglutition. Swallowing can be divided into three stages. We have your voluntary wave or stage initiated by your swallowing process. This is when the food is ready to be swallowed for swallowing. Okay. Your voluntary stage can control with your coughing reflex. It is voluntarily rolled posteriorly into the pharynx by pressure of your tongue upward and backward against the palate. Now, pharyngeal stage is involuntary. Okay? So, constitute the passage of food through the pharynx into the esophagus. The bolus then enters your pharynx and stimulated your epithelial swallowing receptors, impulses past your CN5, 9, and 10. Ano sabi natin kanina? Trigeminal, or glossopharyngeal, and your vagus. Then, the brainstem initiates your series of automatic pharyngeal muscle contraction. Then, it will go to your esophageal stage, which is involuntary phase. It's the transport of food from the esophagus to the stomach. Now, let's go to the paralysis of swallowing mechanism. So, when we say dysphagia, it's defined as the difficulty of swallowing. So, there can be damage to your 5th, 9th, and 10th cranial nerves. Okay? And your poliomyelitis or encephalitis can prevent your normal swallowing by damaging the swallowing center. What is your swallowing center again? It's your medulla, or brainstem. So the paralysis of swallowing muscle by your muscle dystrophy, myasthenia gravis, and botulism, the swallowing center or mechanism is partially or totally paralyzed, and complete abrogation of swallowing cannot occur. Okay, so that's the mechanism. So your sphincters prevents flow of your GI content. Take note, your sphincters plays important role in preventing backflow of your GI content. So if there's a damage to your sphincter, then most probably, okay, most of your or some of your GI content, okay, can go back, okay. Okay, so let's discuss the different sphincters along the GIT. So we have your esophageal sphincter, in your pharyngoesophageal sphincter, gastroesophageal sphincter, pyloric sphincter, sphincter of Oddi. It regulates the flow of pancreatic secretion and bile to the duodenum. Your ileocecal sphincter, between your ileum and your cecum, and prevents the backflow from your cecum to your ileum. Your internal anal sphincter and your external anal sphincter. So these are your sphincter just for you. Body, a valve, your next. Your esophageal sphincter, your upper esophageal sphincter is preventing the entry of your air. Okay, and lower esophageal sphincter, it's the zone of elevated resting pressure, negative 30 mmHg. Okay, It prevents reflux of corrosive acid stomach content, and your LES tone is regulated by your extrinsic and intrinsic nerves, hormones, and neuromodulators. Contraction of your vagal cholinergic nerves and sympathetic nerves, your alpha-adrenergic, relaxation, inhibitory vagal nerve, input to your circular muscle of your LES neurotransmitter, your VIP and or your nitric oxide, and uh, your PPI is your vasoactive intestinal peptide. Okay? And it reduces activity of your vagal excitatory cholinergic fibers. Your achalasia is the total loss of gut motility of your LES. Okay? Next. Function of the lower esophageal sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter. The stomach secretions are highly acidic and contain many proteolytic enzymes. The esophageal mucus is not capable of resisting the digestive action of your gastric secretions, except in the lower one-eighth of your esophagus. The tonic constriction of your LES helps to prevent significant reflux of stomach content into the esophagus, except under very abnormal conditions. So we have here your pyrosis or your heartburn, esophagitis, a common esophageal discomfort. This is result of your regurgitation of your reflux of your gastric content into the lower esophagus, and thereby your acid reflux can cause your esophagitis, mainly due to your incompetence of the LES. Um, then allows the return of stomach content into your esophagus. And this is what we call your gastroesophageal reflux or your GERD na tinatawag. Your clinical manifestation of your GERD is dysphagia, heartburn, regurgitation of the Tsar brush. So, hematemesis or melena in serious or chronic, okay, or may mga complication. Consequences include your bleeding, stricture, tendency to develop Barrett esophagus. Okay? Your Barrett esophagus is a complication of your long-standing GERD. Okay? So by your your GERD or Barrett esophagus, there can be a high risk of your adenocarcinoma by 30 to 40. Okay? Yan. Achalasia. It's the failure to relax. Okay. Your LES fails to relax during your swallowing. Thereby, the food swallowed into your esophagus fails to pass the esophagus into the stomach. Due to your damage of your mesenteric plexus of your lower thirds of the esophagus, um, selective loss of inhibitory neurons in your lower esophagus, there is no receptive relaxation, okay, as it approaches your sphincter. Then the musculature of your lower esophagus remains spastically contracted, and this is called your achalasia. Hypertension of your LES. When your achalasia becomes severe, okay, esophagus becomes tremendously enlarged and it can hold 1 liter of food. Imagine that one. Okay. So infected during the long periods of your esophageal stasis, and infection may cause ulceration of your esophageal mucosa and sometimes leading to your severe substernal pain or can cause your esophageal rupture or even death. Okay? The classic clinical symptoms of your achalasia is progressive dysphagia. So there is heartburn, regurgitation, and aspiration may occur. This is called your aspiration pneumonia because of that damage LS. Okay? In about 5% possibility of develop your SCC or your squamous cell carcinoma. Treatment: stretching the LES or pneumatic balloon dilatation, antispasmodic drugs like your Utilium injection, okay. Surgical myotomy or Heller myotomy. This myotomy is pyloric region dilatation and removal of your muscle fiber. Next, esophageal varices are extremely dilated submucosal veins in your lower third of the esophagus. It is due to your portal hypertension. So, your varices develops in 90% of cirrhotic patients and are often associated with your alcoholic cirrhosis. And variceal rupture produces massive hemorrhage. Clinical varices produce no symptoms until they rupture. Okay? So, motor functions of the stomach. So first, we have the storage, commonly seen in your fundus of your fundus of your stomach, okay? And the large quantities of food until the food can be processed in your stomach and intestine. Dito sila na-store, okay? Then, the stomach can progressively distend to accommodate 0.8 to 1.5 liter. Okay? Pero depende pa din yan sa race. Siyempre, iba-iba naman ng capacity kapag different races. Kung maliit na tao or stature ng tao, then iba din yung capacity. So, depende. Mixing of food with your gastric secretions until it forms your chyme. Okay, so food plus your gastric secretion equals your chyme. Okay. Slow emptying of your chyme into small intestine at a suitable rate, and gastric motility controls the function or okay. Anatomically, the stomach is divided into three major parts. Your fundus, this is your storage kanina. Now we have your body and the antrum. Physiologically, the orad portion, okay, orad portion is the fundus plus your first 2/3 of the body. Okay. The gastric reservoir is specialized for receiving and storing the meal. That's the orad portion. The caudal portion, the remainder of the body plus the antrum, function in mixing and emptying of your gastric contents. So this is your fundus, your body, and right? The functional motor regions, as you can see, the reservoir has a tonic contraction. Now, the antral pump has a phasic, okay? Antral pump, phasic contraction. And your cholecystokinin, okay, helps the gallbladder to contract, okay? Just a side note. Two types of gastric motility. We have the mixing movement. The antrum contracts against closed pylorus, and the moving foot is peristaltic movement. Your antrum contracts against open pylorus. Open pylorus, foot, and the mixing foot is pylorus. Now we have the mixing mechanism in the stomach. The presence of the food in the stomach, there will be a distension in the stomach wall. It will be initiate a weak peristaltic constriction waves called your mixing phase. And in your oral portion and progressively down, they become more intense moving down to your anus. The food in your stomach means with your gastric secretion is called your hunger contractions. This is the rhythmical peristaltic contraction in the body of the stomach, the body of the stomach, and occurs when the stomach is empty for several hours. When the successive contraction becomes extremely strong, used to cause a continuing tetanic contraction lasts for about 2 to 3 minutes. The person can experience mild pain in the pit of the stomach called your hunger pangs. Okay? So usually begin 12 to 24 hours after the last digestion of your food. And in your starvation, it can reach greatest intensity into 3 to 4 days and gradually weaken in succeeding days. Okay? Your stomach emptying, flow of your chyme to your duodenum. The distal opening of your stomach is called your pylorus. Then it allows the water and other fluids emptying with ease. Prevents passage of food particles until mixed in the chyme with almost fluid consistency. The degree of constriction or under the influence of your nervous and humoral reflexes. Most of the time, the rhythmical stomach contractions are weak, function mainly to cause mixing of your food with your gastric secretion. For about 20% of the time while food is in the stomach, the contractions become intense, function mainly to cause your strong peristaltic constriction and cause the stomach. Your pyloric sphincter, it regulates the emptying of your chyme and prevents regurgitation of duodenal content. Pyloric relaxation by inhibitory vagal fibers mediated by your vasoactive intestinal peptide and your nitric oxide. Your pyloric constriction by excitatory cholinergic vagal fibers, sympathetic fibers, and hormones like cholecystokinin, gastric, inhibitory peptide, and secretin. The proximal stomach acts as an electrical pacemaker. Take note, proximal stomach acts as electrical pacemaker. Your proximal stomach fullness determines the distal stomach motor function. And the regulation of the stomach emptying, we have factors here to promote emptying. Gastric food volume. The increase of your food volume in the stomach will increase the gastric emptying. The stretching of the stomach wall elicit local myenteric reflexes to heighten the activity of your pyloric pump. When we say fluidity, its increase of fluidity allows more rapid emptying, and hormones like gastrin stimulates motor functions in the body of the stomach and enhance peristaltic contractions. Okay? We have the cholecystokin. Thereby, it will decrease the emptying. Okay? So, stimulated mainly by fats in the duodenum, but digestion takes long. Movements of your small intestine. Types of motility of your small intestine. Digestive motility pattern. Segmentation equals your mixing contraction. Peristalsis equal to moving of your propulsive contraction, but mostly a mixture of both. Interdigestive motility pattern migrating your myoelectric complex occurs during fasting intervals. Bursts of your intense electrical and contractile activity that propagate from stomach origin to the terminal lasting 5 to 10 minutes is initiated by methylene at a rate of about 5 cm per minute. Serves to clear non-digestible residue from the small intestine, the intestinal house. Okay? So it repeats every 75 to 90 minutes. Your housekeeper is your. Next, we have your mixing contraction, segmentation contraction caused by segmentation of the small intestine. Your chyme distends a portion of your stomach, the small intestine. Then, stretching of your intestinal wall will localize contraction space at intervals. And as one set of segmentation contraction relaxes, a new set often begins. But the contraction of this time occurs mainly at new points between your previous contraction. Your propulsive movement in your small intestine. Peristalsis moves toward the anus at a velocity of 0.5 to 2 cm per second, controlled by your nervous and hormonal signals. Your nervous signal is greatly increased after meal. Entry of your chyme into your duodenum, causing stretch of your duodenal wall, stimulates myenteric plexus, thereby it increases peristalsis. Gastroenteric reflex, tension of the stomach stimulates myenteric plexus of the small intestine, then peristalsis in the small intestine occur. Your hormones like your gastrin, cholecystokinin for your fats, insulin, mutilin, and serotonin allow of each enhanced intestinal motility. Your function of your ileocecal valve and sphincter. Gastroileal reflex immediately after a meal, nervous signals from the stomach intensifies peristalsis in the ileum. Thereby, it increases the emptying of your ileal contents into your system. Fluidity of your ileal content will increase the emptying, but the valve of the sphincter prevents backflow of your fecal contents from colon into small intestine. Regulation of emptying at the ileocecal valve. So this is the regulation of emptying at your ileocecal valve. Next, have the movements of the colon. Movements of the colon are normally very sluggish. Important for the principal functions of the colon. Absorption of water, electrolytes from the chyme to form your solid test in the proximal portion of your colon. Storage of fecal matter until it will be expelled in the distal portion of the colon. Take note, proximal portion of the colon will have responsibility in the absorption of water, electrolytes from the chyme to form a solid test. Okay? But if your storage and fecal matter until it will expel, will occur in your distal portion for colon. Okay, next. Mixing movements. Hostrations. The large circular muscle contractions constrictions occur in large intestine. Take note. Large circular muscle constriction occur in your large intestine. At some time, the longitudinal muscle of the colon contracts. Thereby, it can cause unstimulated portion of your large intestine to bulge outward. So, it it will look like a bag-like sac called your haustration. Okay? So, exposes the content of your surface of the intestine to absorb water and electrolytes. Then, provides minor forward propulsion of colonic events. Let's go to your mass movements. It's a propulsive movement wherein mass movement from cecum to your sigmoid colon is modified type of peristalsis. Propels the feces from colon towards your anus. Occurs only in 1 to 3 times a day. Okay, take note. Normal, 1 to 3 times a day. Some people, about 15 minutes after the breakfast. So let's go to your defecation. Now, this defecation is a reflex expulsion of your content to your rectum. When a mass movement forces feces into your rectum, the desire for defecation occurs immediately. Continual dribble of your fecal matter through your anus is prevented by your tonic constrictions of your internal anal sphincter and external anal sphincter. Okay? Your internal anal sphincter is a circular, take note, smooth muscle that lies immediately inside the anus. So it's a smooth muscle. Your external anal is a skeletal muscle that surrounds your internal sphincter. Thus, okay, your internal anal sphincter is involuntary, but your external inner sphincter is voluntary. Okay, so what controls this external anal? It's your pudendal nerve, part of your somatic nervous system. So normally it kept continuously constricted unless conscious signals inhibits the constriction. Defecation is initiated by your defecation reflex. So this is your defecation reflex. Intrinsic reflex, controlled by your mesenteric plexus, normally weak. Okay. Feces enter to the rectum, distension of the rectum, afferent signals to your mesenteric plexus, peristaltic waves through the descending colon, sigmoid, and rectum, then internal sphincter, anal sphincter, and is your external anal, will also consciously, okay, do the defecation, okay, or stimulate defecation. Okay, push up. Now, let's go to your parasympathetic. Parasympathetic defecation reflex, or your extrinsic reflex. It greatly intensifies the peristaltic waves as well as relaxes the internal anal sphincter. Distension of your rectum due to your accumulation of your feces. Nerve endings in your rectum are stimulated and then the signal into your spinal cord then reflexly back to the descending colon. Your sigmoid rectum by way of your pelvic nerves, parasympathetic nerve, then to your defecation contraction of your such part of the GIT defecation. Other effects such as taking a deep breath, closure of your glottis, and contraction of your abdominal wall. Okay, that's the parasympathetic reflex or extrinsic reflex. So next one, the secretory function of your GIT, secretory glands. The three primary function is the production of digestive enzyme, production of glucose, and production of enzymes. The quantity secreted in each segment is almost exactly the amount needed for proper digestion. Now, you have to memorize the daily secretion of your gastrointestinal juices is about 6 to 7 liters. Okay? So your saliva, daily volume 1,000. The pH is 6 to 7. Gastric secretion is 1.5, 1, 3.5. it's acidic nature. Your pancreatic secretion, 1000, 8 to 8.3, it's more likely to be alcohol. Bile, 1000, 7.8, small intestine secretion is 1800, 7.58. Nurse gland secretion, 100, 8.9. Large intestine, 200, 7.58. Total 6.7 daily volume. Your gastrointestinal juice. Okay. Okay. Let's focus in this one. The general principle of your GIT secretions. Anatomically, types of glands. Mucous cells or goblet cells on the surface of your epithelium is most part of the GI. Releases your mucus in response to your local irritation of the epithelium and acts as a lubricant that protects the surface from excoriation and digestion. Your pits, invagination of your epithelium into the submucosa, like for example your crypts of tubercle in the small intestine, secretes your intestinal juices. Tubular glands, example your hydrochloric acid, and pepsinogen secreting gland in the stomach. Complex glands found associated with your alimentary tract, example your salivary glands, pancreas, and okay. Your basic mechanism of stimulation of your GI glands, contract of food with the epithelium, then the enteric nervous system stimulation and hormone production, autonomic stimulation of your secretion, your parasympathetic and sympathetic stimulation. Your mucus secretion is a thick, so mucus secretion is a thick secretion composed of your water, electrolytes, and mixture of several proteins. The importance of your mucus in the GIT is that this mucus is an excellent lubricant of your and protectant of your GIT wall. Your mucus has adherent qualities, okay, in which adhere tightly to food and to spread as thin film over the surface. Has sufficient body. It coats the wall of the gut and prevents actual contact of most food particles in your mucosa and has a low resistance for your slippage. The particles can slide along the epithelium with great ease. Okay? So strong resistance to digestion by your GI enzymes and buffering function. That's the function for now. This ends the second part of our discussion for the listening for listening, and we will continue this one in the part 3. References from Guyton, and the PowerPoint presentation is the PowerPoint. I do not own this one, but the rightful owner of this one owns it. So from our previous professor, okay, this PowerPoint. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and see you on topic 3 or part 3, okay, about GI.